I was 38 lines into the reporting module when the email hit. Tuesday morning, coffee gone cold, fingers flying over the keyboard, just another code sprint. Then, ding, Outlook lit up. And everyone in the bullpen stopped breathing at once. Garrett had CC'd the whole damn team by mistake. Keep Joel at $16 per hour through Q4. He's divorced, underwater on his mortgage, has 2 kids with medical needs. He won't push. We're billing him out at $225 per hour. He's lucky to be here. The room went dead quiet. No typing, no mouse clicks, not even chair squeaks. Just that buzzing, fluorescent silence. Garrett tried to recall the email, but it was too late. We'd all seen it. Everyone. Then his office door slammed shut, hard. I didn't say a word, didn't even blink. I just sat there, staring at line 39, the blinking cursor taunting me. I'd spent 9 straight months fixing this broken system from the inside out, eating canned chili at midnight, logging 12-hour days, missing calls from my kids because I was neck-deep in legacy spaghetti code. And this was what I got. Lucky to be here. Quick note, before we go further, share which city or country you're watching from. That email didn't just piss me off. It broke something, quietly, coldly. Right there, in the middle of a Tuesday, I stopped being scared. I minimized the code editor, opened a new tab, didn't know what I was doing yet, just knew I wasn't letting that smug bastard profit off me for another day without a fight. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Kyle swivel his chair toward me like he wanted to say something. Then he looked down, thought better of it. Fine. Let them stay quiet. I wasn't looking for a savior. I was just done. I pulled up the shared drive, started skimming contracts, cross-checked emails, downloaded my work logs, every client ticket I'd touched, every file I'd rebuilt. I copied everything to a secure folder on a flash drive I kept in my backpack, just in case. Garrett's door stayed closed the rest of the day. At 5 sharp, I stood up, shut down my terminal, and walked out without saying a word. Drove straight home, passed out on the couch in my work clothes. Didn't even eat dinner. Next morning, I was back at my desk by 7. Eyes clear, focus sharp. If they wanted to screw me, fine. They'd better be ready to find out how fast a desperate dad could burn the whole house down. My name's Joel Rivas. I was 43, divorced, living in a 2-bedroom rental in Aurora, Colorado, working back-end dev at Tregan Software, a mid-tier tech outfit with a shiny website and a rotting core. It was my first real job in tech after finishing community college at night. I had 2 kids, a busted Camry, and a stomach ulcer from too much gas station coffee and too little sleep. My ex-wife Jenna had taken off for Arizona with her personal trainer. I got the kids every other weekend and the bills every damn day. Tregan tossed me a bone when no one else would. $16 an hour, no benefits, contract to hire. I'd applied to maybe 50 places before that, and nobody gave me the time of day. So, yeah, I took it. No questions asked. First day on the job, they sat me at a desk with a busted chair, no monitor, and the plug strip hanging out of the wall. My workstation was a folding table jammed into the hallway outside the janitor's closet. You had to turn sideways just to pass someone. They billed me to clients as a senior architecture consultant. I didn't even know what that meant. My actual job was putting out fires that their real devs didn't want to touch. High-risk stuff. Legacy code bases that hadn't been updated since Obama's first term. Total mess. But I kept my mouth shut and figured it out. Every time a ticket landed in my queue, I treated it like life or death. Didn't matter if I'd seen the framework before. I'd learn it by morning. Ate dinner over my keyboard. Fixed bugs while my daughter slept next to me on the couch during visits. 2 months in, I rebuilt their reporting tools from scratch. Systems they'd been duct taping together for years. Clients started noticing. Some even emailed directly asking for me on their projects. But none of that praise made it to Garrett. Garrett Blake, CTO and king asshole of the company, didn't even learn my name until month 4. He was too busy flying out for business retreats and posting yacht selfies with hashtags like #HustleGrind. My 6-month review came and went. No raise, no benefits. Just, "You're doing great, Joel. Let's revisit in the first quarter." Meanwhile, Garrett hired his nephew Chad, yes, his real name, at $48 an hour, Fresh out of college, zero experience, couldn't write a function without Stack Overflow open. That kid crashed prod twice in 1 week and still got invited to strategy meetings. I was pulling 12-hour shifts and couldn't even get an extra monitor approved, but I kept showing up. Not because I loved it, because I had no choice. Every time my son's insulin ran low, or the school nurse called about a specialist appointment, I remembered what was on the line. I wasn't working for Garrett. I was working for 2 kids who didn't deserve to grow up watching me fail. By month 8, I was the go-to guy for anything broken. Devs started slacking tickets my way with notes like, "Ask Joel, he's got the magic touch." Clients were happy, projects were closing, Garrett still silent. Then one Friday, I overheard him in the break room bragging to a vendor on the phone. "Honestly, we've trimmed so much fat this year. Found guys who'll work twice as hard for half the rate." I stood just outside the door, coffee in hand, heart pounding like a war drum. He was talking about me. That's when I knew this wasn't temporary. This wasn't some oversight or a clerical delay on my raise. They weren't planning to bring me on full time. They were using me, banking on the fact that I needed the job too much to push back. And for a while, they were right. But I wasn't stupid. I stopped trying to impress them, stopped asking for scraps. Instead, I started watching, listening, noticing how they priced projects, how Garrett padded invoices, how the same 3 buzzwords popped up in every pitch deck like clockwork. By the time that email landed, I wasn't shocked. I was ready. July hit like a furnace. Hottest damn week of the year, and the office AC only worked upstairs where the execs parked their asses. Downstairs, the dev bullpen smelled like BUO, burnt coffee, and frustration. My shirt clung to my back by 10 a.m., and my keyboard keys started sticking from sweat. Garrett didn't show up until almost 11 that Monday, rolled in like he owned the sun. Golf shirt, fresh tan, brand new Rolex flashing as he waved at the front desk girl like she was a cocktail waitress. Didn't even glance at us until he strolled over with that fake, "I'm your buddy" smile. "How's the Bromex rebuild?" he asked like he gave a damn. I didn't look up. "Stable," I said, still optimizing the transaction layer. He clapped the back of my chair like we were on a team. "Nice. We're billing them $3.50 an hour for this one, so make it bulletproof." I turned toward him, my neck cracked from hunching over the code for the last 11 hours. "What's my cut of that?" He paused for half a beat, smirked. "You don't want to sound ungrateful, Joel." Then he walked off without waiting for a reply. I stared at my screen, blinking through the blur. I'd been living off vending machine Pop-Tarts and store-brand caffeine pills to make this thing bulletproof. Garrett was out golfing with clients while I was patching holes in his product before it collapsed. I finished the deployment patch just after 7 o'clock that night. Didn't wait for the usual round of Slack emojis from the junior devs. Packed my bag, drove home, and kissed my kids goodnight without saying much. They were already half asleep, the little one curled up with her stuffed giraffe, the older one still whispering something about Minecraft. By 9, the house was silent. I headed to the garage. I hadn't touched the old laptop in a year, fan loud as hell. Screen flickered on like it was waking up from a coma. I sat at the workbench, surrounded by old routers, boxes of wires, and broken toys I'd promised to fix, but never did. And I started building, not fixing, not coding for someone else, building. First thing I did was make notes on every pricing model I'd seen Tragan use. Flat rates, hourly, bundled services. I remembered how Garrett inflated estimates to double bill hours or sell clients on emergency fixes we'd already completed. I'd seen him resell the same half-baked feature to 3 different clients under different names. Then I mapped out everything that didn't work in our current system. All the junk code bolted on over the years just to justify new support packages. Features no one used. Permissions that made no sense. Metrics built to impress execs instead of help users. I reverse engineered the whole mess and started sketching something leaner, smarter, clean code, real logic, open modules, no bloat. I wanted a platform that could scale with a company without breaking at the seams, something users wouldn't need a dev team just to navigate. I called it Argon OS. Didn't even know why, just liked the sound. Strong, simple, clean. By midnight, I had the first basic structure laid out in diagrams and test files. No branding, no UI, just bones and muscle. But it felt real, like mine. The next night, I built out the modular framework. By the weekend, I was drafting a basic front-end prototype, kept the lights off, and the garage door closed. Worked in the dark with just a fan blowing hot air at my feet and that old laptop burning a hole in the table. At work, I smiled when Garrett bragged about trimming fat by cutting QA hours. I nodded when Chad asked if I could double-check his merge logic. I played the role, but every night I was back in the garage, planning, coding, designing a way out. A few days into the rebuild, I called Carl. He used to be our lead UX guy at Trigan before Garrett canned him over a contract dispute. Brilliant designer, quiet, sharp, and absolutely ruthless when it came to cutting through bloated garbage UI. We hadn't talked much since he left, but I knew he'd get it. I texted him a screenshot of my early Argon OS layout and said, "You busy tonight?" He showed up with a six-pack and his old MacBook, like he'd been waiting for that message all year. We worked until 3 in the morning, sitting shoulder to shoulder in my hot-ass garage, fans spinning, sweat dripping down our backs. I'd build a module, he'd tear it apart. He'd sketch something, I'd code it blindfolded. We barely talked, just grunted, nodded, moved on. Weekends, we met at diners with free WIFI and refill coffee. Sat in booths with peeling vinyl and power strips running across the table. We split pancakes and wireframed flows on napkins. Argon OS started to take shape fast. Every dumb feature Trigan had stacked on their platform to upsell premium support, gone. We replaced it with logic that made real-world sense. Clear permissions, clean dashboards, automated reporting. I built the back end to flex with whatever a client threw at it. Carl made sure it didn't look like some startup dumpster fire. Back at Trigan, I kept my head down. Showed up early, stayed late, played dumb. When Garrett bragged about cutting budget by trimming dead weight, I smiled like I was impressed. When Chad forgot to sanitize inputs again and crash staging, I quietly fixed it and let him take the credit. I wasn't there to win anymore. I was there to extract every last drop of value I could. I started researching state filing fees, looking into LLC formation. Colorado was straightforward. I bookmarked a couple legal sites and started planning. That's when I looped in Jeff. Jeff's a buddy from way back. We worked at a cell phone store in our 20s, and he ended up going to law school. Not a corporate guy. Small practice, mostly family law, and contract disputes. I sent him my Trigan paperwork, including the original onboarding contract. He got back to me fast. "Joel," he said, "they're using an old-ass template from like 2009. No IP clause, no non-compete. You own whatever you build outside work hours on your own machine. Argon OS is yours." I read that email twice. Let it sit there for a second, then slammed my laptop shut and walked 3 laps around the block. This thing was real. Carl and I doubled down. We started tracking time like we were already a company. I'd build from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., crash for 4 hours, then head to work, like nothing was different. Carl mocked up a clean branding package. I bought the domain, locked down the Git repos, started drafting copy for a landing page. We didn't have investors. We didn't even have users. But the bones were solid. The idea was sound. We weren't just making a platform, we were building our exit. One night at the diner, Carl looked up from his laptop and said, "You know we're gonna get sued, right?" I nodded. "Garrett's gonna throw everything he's got when this blows." Carl didn't flinch. Good. Means we're on to something. By mid-month, we had 3 working modules, 2 deployment pipelines, and a client-ready prototype. Argon OS could handle reporting, user permissions, and data sync better than anything I'd touched at Trigan. And it was clean. Ours. The only thing we were missing now was an opening. Somewhere, somehow, we needed to prove to the world that we weren't just 2 pissed-off ex-employees in a garage. We were the future. The opening came faster than I expected. Bromex Capital was one of Trigan's biggest clients, and Garrett had been talking up a new feature rollout like it was some revolutionary breakthrough. He scheduled a live demo with their CEO, Lara Quinn, a woman known for killing deals with one look. The plan was for Chad to run it. Garrett wanted to give the next generation some exposure. I sat in the bullpen, headset on, pretending to focus on code while watching the chaos unfold on the big screen at the front of the room. 5 minutes in, the whole thing froze. The live UI glitched, then crashed outright. Chad started panicking, clicking random windows, muttering into his mic. Garrett's face turned red. He sprinted from his office, headset in hand, whispering something harsh to Chad before yanking the mouse away and waving me over. "Joel, fix this." Now I stepped in like a paramedic walking into a car crash. Didn't ask questions. Just sat down, muted the mic, and dove into the back end. Within 2 minutes, I'd reset the deployment, patched the front-end service, and got the client portal back online. Lara's voice came back through the call, calm but sharp. "Is it working now?" I unmuted. "Yes, ma'am. Real-time sync is restored. You should see the live data feed." She paused. "You wrote this code?" I did. "Then walk me through it." I walked her through it, clean, simple, no buzzwords. Just what it did, why it worked, and how I made sure it wouldn't crash again. When the call ended, Garrett slapped my back like I'd scored a touchdown. "That's what I'm talking about. My team always delivers." I logged off and walked away before I said something that would have gotten me fired. 10 minutes later, a message popped into my inbox from Lara Quinn. Subject, "Coffee? Let's talk." Just you and me. No Tregan. She sent a time and a spot near Union Station. I almost didn't reply. Then I thought about that email, the one where Garrett called me a desperate dad like I was some pawn on a game board. I showed up early the next morning. Lara was already there. Tall, composed, black blazer over a gray tee. No laptop, just a phone and an espresso. She didn't waste time. "You built that system solo?" I nodded. She raised an eyebrow. "What's Tregan paying you?" I hesitated, then said it. $16 an hour. She sat back like I'd slapped her. "You're joking." "Nope." She leaned forward, voice low. "You're wasting your time there. What's your long game?" I looked at her for a second. Didn't answer. She didn't blink. "Let me rephrase. What should your long game be?" That night, after the kids went to bed, I opened Argon OS. I didn't send a pitch deck, didn't write some fancy email. I just recorded a screen share, walked her through the prototype like I would with any client, showed her the 3 core modules, explained how it could plug into legacy systems or scale clean from the ground up. I hit send. 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Lara Quinn, how fast can we deploy this at Bromex? No emoji, no extra fluff. Just the question that changed everything." I stared at the message for a long second, then picked up my phone and called Carl. "You might want to cancel your weekend plans," I said. He didn't ask why. 2 days later, I walked into Garrett's office with a printed letter in my hand. He didn't look up right away. Just waved me in, still clicking through whatever spreadsheet he was pretending to understand. I dropped the letter on his desk. He squinted at it, read the top line, then leaned back in his chair like I'd told him his yacht just sank. "You're quitting?" he said, smirking. "Yeah," he scoffed. "Look, Joel, I get it. You're tired, you're burnt out. But let's not be stupid about this. How about we bump you to 18 an hour if you stick it out through the quarter?" I didn't even sit down. "I'm not taking a raise. I'm starting my own company." He blinked, then laughed, loud and long, like it was the funniest thing he'd heard all year. "You're what? Come on, man. You don't even have a client list. Where are you getting clients? Your mom?" He grinned. "You really think Bromex is going to go with you over us?" I stared him down. "We'll see." He stood up fast, red in the face now. "This is a mistake, Joel. You've got no runway, no infrastructure, no—" I didn't wait for the rest. I turned and walked out. 10 minutes later, he called an emergency board meeting. Didn't even bother to shut the blinds. I stood at my desk backing up my inbox while watching him pace behind the glass, arms flailing, clearly losing his mind. While he ranted, I scrubbed my machine clean. Local repos deleted, personal files gone, no loose ends. I signed out of every system I had access to and left my badge on the desk. No goodbyes, no speeches, just walked out clean. That night, Carl came over with a crumpled grocery bag and a bottle of the cheapest beer they had on the shelf. We sat in my kitchen, cracked the caps, and filed the LLC paperwork online. Argon Systems, LLC. I hit submit and leaned back in the chair. We were official. Carl raised his bottle. "To burn in the boats." I tapped mine to his. No turning back. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel reckless, I felt free. That whole week, my phone buzzed nonstop. Clients asking questions, Garrett's assistant trying to clarify the terms of my exit, Chad emailing dumb questions about systems he didn't build. I ignored every single one. Lara called the next morning. "You in?" I said. "I've got 2 developers and a working prototype." "That's all I need," she said. "Let's move." By Friday, we had a signed letter of intent from Bromex. Carl and I sat in the garage that night, sketching out onboarding flows on a whiteboard I ripped from a school liquidation auction. My daughter poked her head in to ask if she could draw on the other side. I handed her a marker. That was our office. That was our start. The next morning, I was frying eggs when the phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered anyway. "Mr. Rivas?" The voice was stiff, legal. "You've been served. Tragan Software is pursuing action for IP theft, client poaching, and breach of contract." I didn't say a word, just hung up and called Jeff. He picked up on the second ring. "You get the love letter?" "Yep." He chuckled. "Send it over. I'll tear it apart before lunch." I forwarded the PDF, then sat at the kitchen table while my kids argued over cereal. My daughter wanted the last chocolate packet. My son was claiming first dibs. Real life kept moving. 30 minutes later, Jeff called back, laughing so hard I thought he might choke. "They're cooked, man. This thing won't last a week in court. No IP clause, no signed NDA, and they're suing over features that aren't even unique. They don't even have a provisional patent. So they're bluffing? They're trying to scare you into crawling back. Don't even blink I didn't." Later that afternoon, Laura looped me into a group chat with 3 other people. Clean signatures, big firm names, investors. She didn't waste time. I told them what you've built. They want to see it. That night, Carl and I drove downtown and pitched Argon OS out of a rented conference room with folding chairs and a flickering projector. They didn't care. They saw what we'd built, ran numbers, asked pointed questions. By the end of the night, they shook our hands and offered us seed money, legal coverage, and office space downtown. Suddenly, we weren't just 2 guys in a garage anymore. Tragan's lawsuit hit the press 3 days later. They probably thought they were playing offense, but they forgot what century we were in. That email, the one where Garrett called me a desperate dad with no leverage, leaked to a tech blog within 12 hours. Nobody ever found out who sent it. Didn't matter. It exploded. Reddit caught it first. Then Hacker News. Then LinkedIn. Tech CEO exploits single dad, dev for profit. That was the headline. Brutal, perfect. I couldn't have written it better myself. Garrett tried spinning it as a misunderstanding. Said the email was taken out of context. But nobody bought it. Not when ex-employees started coming out of the woodwork with stories. Underpaid contractors, laid-off designers, devs stuck in dead-end roles for years. Someone coined the hashtag, "Build Don't Beg." It caught fire. We leaned into it. Carl slapped it on our landing page. 10 days after filing the LLC, we deployed Argon OS live for Bromex. No dress rehearsals. No soft launch. We flipped the switch at 6 a.m., sharp. It ran like a dream. Bromex's internal team messaged us within the hour, said it was the smoothest rollout they'd ever had. No bugs, no delays, just clean logic and fast response times. Laura called around noon. "You boys built something real," she said. "Now let's see if you can scale it." I hung up and looked over at Carl. He grinned. "You ready?" I nodded. "Let's go." We didn't sleep much after launch. The next 72 hours were a blur. Emails, calls, walkthroughs, bug reports that weren't even bugs. Just people not used to software that actually worked. But it paid off fast. By Friday, 4 more companies signed letters of intent. 3 of them were ex-Tragan clients. Garrett must have been foaming at the mouth. He tried to hit back at a Chamber of Commerce breakfast the next week, got up in front of a room full of suits and started running his mouth. Called me unstable, said I'd snapped under pressure, and was misleading clients with vaporware. The line didn't land. I wasn't there, but Carl was. He texted me 2 words during the speech. "It's unraveling." An hour later, I got a call from a guy named Andrew Goff, VP at Randall Tech. Mid-sized enterprise logistics firm, exactly the kind of client we needed. He didn't waste time. "If you're making Garrett this angry," he said, "we want in." The lawsuit was still technically active, but their ammo was getting weaker by the day. Garrett's board started sniffing around, probably trying to figure out if the sinking ship could be salvaged. Then one of the junior board members reached out directly. Quiet email, wanted a meeting. So, I showed up. Brought Jeff with me, just in case things got slippery. We sat in their fancy conference room, glass walls, abstract art, untouched Keurig machine in the corner. Half the board didn't even make eye contact at first. I slid a folder across the table. Inside were emails from over a year ago, me pitching the exact upgrades Argon OS delivered, code samples, UX notes Carl had made back when he was still at Tregan, all time-stamped, all ignored. Garrett had shut them down. Then months later, repackaged the ideas as his own in a roadmap deck to investors. I let them sit with that. When the silence dragged, I spoke up. I'm not here to burn the place down. But I'm not walking away clean either. One of them finally asked what I wanted. I laid it out. Public apology. Damages for the bogus lawsuit. And a third-party audit of employee pay going back 5 years. It got quiet again. Then one of the older board members nodded. You'll have it in writing by Monday. We stood, shook hands, and left. Garrett resigned to pursue new opportunities the next morning. The announcement went out via press release at 6 a.m. No quotes, no praise, just a line about future strategic direction. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. But I did forward the resignation news to Carl with one word. Checkmate. 6 months later, we had 25 people on payroll. Half of them were folks Tregan had laid off. The rest? Contractors they had bled dry, or junior devs they never gave a shot to. Some had resumes with holes in them. Some were just hungry. All of them had something to prove. Argon OS was live at 5 major firms: Bromex, Randall Tech, Kepler Services, Laneway Analytics, and Darnell Health. All running stable, all singing our praises. We didn't have a marketing team, didn't need one. Word of mouth hit faster than any campaign we could have paid for. Clients talked, teams moved. Emails landed in my inbox daily. Heard about your platform? Can we schedule a call? VCS started circling. First it was local angels. Then came 2 West Coast funds and a group out of Austin. We didn't say yes to anyone, but we listened, took the meetings, got smart, kept building. I moved out of the rental, got a place with 3 bedrooms and a small backyard. Nothing fancy, just clean and quiet. My daughter picked the pink room. My son took the one with the biggest closet and turned it into a Lego war zone. They each had their own beds now. No more sharing couches. I finally had health insurance that covered both of them. Paid off the last of the divorce debt. Clean slate. Carl came in full-time by then. We brought Jeff on as general counsel, part-time at first, then permanent once the contracts started piling up. We rented a real office, a scrappy brick building 2 blocks from Union Station, the kind of place with creaky floors, high ceilings, and just enough draft in the winter to remind you it wasn't corporate. Tregan, still limping along, trying to rebrand with buzzwords and recycled designs. Tregan Next was the tagline. Everyone laughed. Their codebase was still a mess, their engineers were jumping ship, and Garrett's name was poison in tech circles. Every time I saw his face pop up on LinkedIn with some motivational post, I knew it was a dead man's signal. Nobody was buying what he was selling anymore. We didn't celebrate with champagne or press releases. We ordered pizza, cracked open sodas, got back to work. I remember looking around that office one night. Open laptops, half-eaten slices, whiteboards covered in notes. One of our interns was asleep on a beanbag with a laptop still balanced on his chest. No one told him to clock out. No one cared. That was the win. This thing we built, it wasn't revenge anymore. That fire had burned out. We were building something better. A place where people didn't have to beg to be seen. Where they weren't just line items on a spreadsheet or names on a vendor list. They mattered, and they knew it. That was Argon. Last month I gave a talk at a small tech meetup downtown. Nothing fancy, just a co-working space with mismatched chairs and a busted projector. No sponsors, no live stream. Just people with ideas trying to figure it out. I kept it simple, talked about building smart, trusting your gut, not waiting for permission, the usual war stories. People laughed, took notes, asked good questions. Afterward, as I packed up my laptop, This guy walked up, mid-20s, wrinkled shirt, tired eyes. He looked half a step away from sleeping in that folding chair. "Hey man, you're Joel, right?" I nodded. "Yeah. I used to intern at Tregan. Like 2 summers ago. Garrett screwed me over on my hours, said they'd be paid, then claimed it was part of the learning experience. Never got a dime." I studied his face. He looked familiar now. Same nervous energy, same posture I'd had back when I didn't know how to ask for what I was worth. We talked for a while. He told me he was trying to launch his own app, some issue scheduling tool for freelancers, but he was out of cash and living out of his van, literally, showering at gyms, coding in libraries, said he just needed a shot. I reached into my pocket and handed him my card. "Come by next week," I said. "We might have a spot for a junior dev." His mouth dropped open, just a little. Then he grinned, nodded, and walked off like he was floating. I stayed in the lot for a second, watching him disappear down the sidewalk. Then I got in my truck and started the drive home. It was a cool night, windows down, traffic light. I passed by the old office building where Tregan used to be before they downsized. Looked like a ghost shell now. Empty lot, dark windows, faded logo peeling off the door. And I thought about that first day, the broken desk, the hallway seat, Garrett's fake promises. If he'd just given me that raise, if he'd treated me like a human being instead of a cheap resource, none of this would have happened, but he didn't. And now, every company that left Tregan for Argonne, every dev we hired who used to be thrown away, every time someone shared our name on a forum or a thread, they were all reminders. Underestimating people comes with a price. And the best part, I never had to destroy him. He did that all by himself.